Welcome on back to Twisted History presents The Road to Iraq Part 2. That's what I'm calling it, Donnie.
Okay. Well, the road to Iraq is about to get pretty Iraqi.
Right. We are leaving on a flight, a Pegasus flight tonight from, right now we're in Istanbul.
Yeah.
We just did a tour. We completed essentially an entire tour of Turkey.
A loop.
And so I teased it a little bit. If you haven't listened to episode 1, we obviously teased this, that we were going to Baghdad, hence the road to Iraq. And the reactions from people, from loved ones that we haven't told a ton of people, and this will obviously come out after we are back home safe. But we did, just to update everybody, we do have a third with us. So Tommy is our coordinator. He's a great dude.
Yep.
He's a glue guy. He's really helped us in a lot of different ways. He's helped you in a lot of different ways. He's our coordinator. He's our booker.
Yeah. He's also the guy that planted the seed of going to Iraq in my head. He knew his sister wasn't going to take it well. And I guess that was an understatement. She was pissed. She pretty much just like hung up on him and be like, are you fucking kidding me? No, you're not going to Baghdad. But then she talked to a mutual friend of theirs who has been going back and forth from the U.S. to Baghdad for a while. And he was actually like, oh, no, they'll be fine. It's actually gotten a lot safer. You have nothing to worry about. So then she was like, you know what? I'm not happy you're going, but you do you. You're a grown adult. I can't control your life. But then she had a couple more days to ponder it. And I guess has kind of done a... whatever.
A 180.
A 180 once again. Now she's back to being very upset, and he just told us he won't be able to go, which is fair. I feel like a 4-day trip isn't worth like ruining your relationship with your sister, but it's a shame because we've kind of gotten used to traveling around together. I was like looking forward to having him there, so then when me and you are just fucking lost in our cameras, he could be like, hey, that dude's looking at you a little funny.
Yeah, he was going to cover our 6 in more ways than one.
So he backed out, but the show must go on.
So we mentioned in episode 1, and I'll mention it again, the situation in Iraq has changed over the past year. It used to be impossible to get a visa. And we saw some YouTubers, as Donnie mentioned, you can now get it upon arrival is what we've learned. So we're going to fly into Baghdad tonight under the cloak of darkness.
Yeah. All the flights are in just the middle of the night. We think so people don't see your plane. That's a little concerning. I don't know. But we arrive at 1 a.m. and then we fly out at 3 a.m.
Yeah, so that's the plan. And, you know, we've rationalized it in our heads where I even pulled up, who knows if this is right, but it's like, technically Chicago's more dangerous than Baghdad right now. Like, What if we were going to Chicago? So obviously, it's this fucking bird. There are different things that do happen in Iraq, in Baghdad. I mentioned the 2020 assassination that the United States, we killed the Iranian guy. We killed the Iranian head of military, I believe, which was a big deal at the time.
People thought that was going to jumpstart World War III.
Yes, exactly.
At the time.
And luckily they were wrong. But I mentioned it because I believe that happened at Baghdad airport. So, you know, statistically, it really has nothing to do with it. I feel okay because it's extremely rare for something to happen. And I'm going to stick by that. I think it's rare.
The main thing is that when I started filming videos in China, my goal was to push the boundaries, see how much I could get away with. These videos are going to be completely different. I'm not going there to see what can I get away with. I'm pretty much going to be playing it by the book. We might try to go to a bar in Baghdad. That might be one of the more extreme things, but still it's not like an illegal bar. It's just a bar that exists, and we want to show people what nightlife is like in a place you wouldn't even expect to find nightlife. Yeah.
And I think we'll do some open air markets. We'll get a sense of that. I'm really excited for that because, like I said, you know, I think I looked it up in July 2021. There was a big attack in an open air market, but quite frankly,
you guys stop bringing these up.
It's just truth.
Okay.
It's just a little bit of truth, but frankly, that's rare. Even then, when I read the article, they were it was a surprise. It was not. I think the Iraqi security forces are obviously there's so much security in this area that we're going because they're looking out for that. They're worried about that. It's not an everyday occurrence anymore.
Yes.
And I think that they're upset when these things happen, obviously, because it's not a war. It's a war-torn country, but it is not, in their eye, they're trying to set up a government free of Iranian influence And that's a little concerning. The Iranians are a little concerning, quite frankly. They did fire missiles into April, I want to say.
Erbil.
Yeah.
Erbil.
So that's concerning, but we were never going to go there anyway, and that didn't kill anybody. So I feel good about the things that I've looked up, and I feel better about it than if I hadn't looked anything up.
We're good. We're good. You'll see when we come back reporting episode 4 of the road to Iraq. I think we'll be fine. When it comes to my parents, I mentioned it briefly, but it was kind of like as we were ending the call, my mom was just like, don't do anything like dangerous in Turkey. And I was like, well, we're actually going to Iraq, but we have a really good guide. And I talked to people who have gone and they all said it was safe. And she was like, what? Okay, all right. But like that, it was like after we had already said our goodbyes. So I don't know if she's fully processed it. I'll try to give them one more call, like at the airport. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
It's an interesting stream where you can really rationalize either way. You can do a bunch of research and feel better about it, or you can do too much or too much thinking, and then all of a sudden you get back to that idea that this is a really dangerous idea. So
yeah, all I need is the 2 YouTubers I talked to who vouched for it. So I'm just gonna take that and not delve any deeper. I also told the guide, so the guide that we're going with, he goes, can you send me an example of the videos you make? And I was like, I don't really have many videos that like he's not going to find a little concerning. So I sent him one and I was like, but don't worry, I always adjust to the cultural norms. For example, I know in Iraq, people don't really drink alcohol. And he was like, who told you that? And I was like, oh, I was just reading that outside of Baghdad, it's not common to see bars where people drinking in public. I have no idea, though. You're the expert. My aim is to just be respectful to the culture. And he said, yes, no worries. You can grab some drinks with you for the road. And yes, there's no problem drinking in Baghdad.
Yeah, I mean, I even
so
looked
he like
up,
wants us to bring like road sodas when we go drive into southern Iraq.
which would make it awesome because it's a long drive from Baghdad into the marshes.
But
so.
there's probably a lot of security checkpoints.
Correct.
And if he just sees like a bunch of empty beer cans in the back, that might complicate the checkpoint. So you know what? I could use a few days off the booze. It's fine.
Well, what we could do though, is drink them and get rid of the cans.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. I'm not concerned.
Yeah. I'm just leaving that out there because I did look up. You're right, and I hope we can confirm this when we get there. Allegedly, they have a brewery that has been open in Baghdad since 1957. This is something I looked up, and I was like, that's fascinating. I would love to see it. Maybe even we'll walk in there and talk to those people. But allegedly, it's been open even throughout wartime when they've had wars going on. So
you got to keep the beer brewing.
So let's talk about Turkey.
The last time we were recording, we were in Cappadocia, but we didn't really talk about it too much. One of the most alien landscapes I've ever been to. Someone made a good point. It looks like straight out of Star Wars, I would say, just in terms of the crazy rock formations. Like it could be Mos Eisley, it could be Tatooine, it could be the moon.
Yeah. And you're right, we didn't mention it, but this was, if you looked at some of our content, I'm sure we'll put out more, it's known for hot air balloons. It's like a very touristy thing, it's a very touristy town, but boy, was it awesome.
It was. And in the winter, they can't go up every morning if there's like snow, if the winds are too strong. And it was freezing when we went, but other than that, perfect weather conditions, incredible visibility.
Yeah, it actually reminded me of, you might know this, it's something I've only never seen in person, but only on video. Is like the Chinese lanterns, I want to say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That you like light and go up into the... It was kind of like that.
Dude, the Chinese lanterns are a lot of fun. We launched one off of my friend's apartment building in Shanghai during Chinese New Year. This was back when fireworks weren't banned and you could just do whatever you want. And like, we just filled this gigantic bag with like flames and send it off. Halfway through, the flames light the bag on fire, and there's like a giant ball of fire just goes hurtling like into our neighboring apartment. So it was beautiful for a while, and it just turned into just a ball of fire. We're like, holy shit! Luckily, the building was made out of concrete, and like the flame went out. But if you were just sitting in that apartment and just see like a flame ball heading towards your window, but yeah.
So this was, 60 times the size.
Yes. We also went to an underground city in Cappadocia. I guess like 5,000 people used to live in a few of these underground cities in the region where they could just hide if there were invaders or raiders. So you got like churches down there, bedrooms, wineries, kitchens. It was wild. But it was probably the least fun thing we've done on the trip.
Yeah, I hated it.
Would you say? Yeah.
It was my least favorite part.
Are you just claustrophobic?
No, I'm just 6'2", so it was just crushing my neck.
You had to be crouched the whole time.
I had the wide lens on the camera so I could at least see everything. I was happy about that. And we did have fun. No, we had fun in there.
I mean, it's just cool from a historical perspective to think like you had like a town of 5,000 people, which I grew up in a town of 7,500 people. So it's like almost everybody in my town living in like a network of caves. That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And they also had these ones that look like, and this is the Star Wars part, where it looked like blast doors that kind of had like 5 or 6 holes punched at the top. And what the guy, I think it was our, when we first arrived, we were speaking to the really nice guy who owned the hotel, or was the hotel, one of the hotel owners. And he said that it was for pigeons. And pigeons actually go into these holes and they poop, and that is used as manure, or used to be.
Fertilizer, yeah.
Yeah. So they would then kind of capture all of that, which is a really fascinating idea.
They were shit harvesters.
Yeah.
Sharvesting. Is there like anything inside those places now?
Those are the pigeon houses.
Oh, cool.
You see the small holes?
Yeah.
That's for the door for the pigeons. Pigeons are going in and leaving their shit. And we were using those shits on the farm. But now we are not using anymore, and no one is using.
So you guys used to harvest the pigeon shit to grow the crops. Pigeon shit was great for growing crops back in the day. And I thought maybe it was like, did you guys raise these pigeons for food at all? And they were like, no, it was pretty much, they just used the poop. Have you ever eaten a pigeon? No. It's very, very tasty.
I heard that, but it's really small, man. I'm not gonna be fooled with the one, so why I eat?
Well, that's why you gotta eat like 6 pigeons.
Yeah, really a fascinating place.
Yeah, and that was the town that caters towards tourists the most. We should talk about the second most touristy place we went, Pamukkale. It's these hot springs that are in these sort of white limestone, a crazy formation on a mountain, where the photos look incredible, and it does look pretty cool in person, but that's like the only thing you can do in this town, and the rest of the town's like a dump. Or it just seems the rest of the town, like, I don't know. We showed up. I had booked a hotel on booking.com. We show up. The hotel is completely closed. A dude's walking down the street, and he's like, "You guys are staying at that hotel?" We're like, "Yep." He's like, "Oh, like, the guy died." And we're like, "Wait, what?" Like, I can show you my confirmation. He was like, "No, I mean, you should come and stay at my hotel." But that dude, yeah, he's dead. And so we found the phone number, called him up. He was thankfully still alive, but very not dead. But his hotel was dead at the moment. And he said, "Yeah, we don't open until April." So we just had to walk around town, find another place. And yeah, so the one thing to do is just in the morning, go to these hot springs, which weren't that hot. Only one of them was kind of hot, and it was freezing outside. So I was just kind of like trying to bury myself in 6 inches of water to stay warm, because the moment you got out, you were just freezing. So I was just like rolling around in a warm puddle.
We did see some cool ruins. Oh, I'm forgetting the name of the do you remember?
And they had the Cleopatra pool.
Oh,
but yeah, correct. Yes. Those ruins, it was called the ancient Greek city of Hierapolis.
Hierapolis, that's exactly what it was. Which was, I think, a little bit even more worth it to see all of that together.
Yes, because that's cool. The cool thing about the hot springs is that they've been used by people since BC, since like 2nd century BC. Hierapolis was a spa town, and they would use these natural hot springs. So that was very cool. That like it's I could be swimming in the same spots where the ancient Greeks were going to, to have a spa day.
Yeah, and then allegedly the ruins that are underneath the Cleopatra's pool, we were a little questionable. We thought it was definitely maybe a little resurrected, and because it was like allegedly an earthquake that caused these columns, these Roman columns, to be visible underneath the water in this pool. But it looked like kind of a modern pool.
Yeah, so this was different than the hot springs. This was just like a pool. You had to pay some money to take a swim. This pool was actually hot, which was nice, and it was just filled with ruins. So like columns, slabs of granite, and we don't know if those were just placed there to attract tourists, but it was pretty cool because you're swimming. I brought in the GoPro, so we'll have some cool footage.
Yeah, well, and we can mention it because this is well after. They were like, at first they even had signs that said no GoPro, like literally a sign.
Yeah, and we're like, dude, that's the only thing that makes the pool cool. And if you can be like, hey, it looks normal. Yeah. Look underwater, Roman ruins, and they were like, no GoPros. So I'm like, what's even the point of coming here?
Yeah, yeah, you were definitely upset.
Yeah,
but I also added fuel to the theory that maybe this isn't quite what they say it is, because they don't want you taking, I mean, I'm just guessing, I'm totally speculating, but it seemed like if you don't want GoPros taking detailed photo and video of the actual columns underneath the water, then maybe there's a little something.
Yeah, you'll notice that the ruins were made 4 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had our first drone incident, my first drone incident, where we tried to get the shot. It's just it was an amazing area. It was well worth flying a drone over. So we went outside of the exit, which, for my times with learning and following drone rules, that's okay. If you're outside of an area where you're not allowed to do it, you can certainly fly a drone. So I flew it up in the air, and I was looking at some ruins, and I wasn't really that far away, and all of a sudden it went out. All of a sudden I lost complete connection to the point where I thought, did they just hit me with an RF zapper?
Apparently is that like, does a zapper look like an actual gun and you just like point it at a drone?
It looks like a gigantic television antenna.
A radar, and you can just zap it out of the sky?
I don't know if you can see it, but almost something that would be on a roof. Like, they're big. Because where did we see one? We actually saw one.
I'm sure they have them around all the huge mosques
I saw
on the
one.
European side.
You know where we were watching a YouTube video of a guy who droned in Istanbul.
Yeah, at the big mosque near.
And if you're near a military base in Turkey, they're going to do that. They're going to have a big gun. Doesn't look like a gun that shoots bullets. It looks like a gun that shoots signals.
Yeah.
And it's got a big antenna on it. So we didn't see anything like that. I think it was actually a malfunction on my part or something, just a misconnection between my phone and the drone. But that got a little dicey.
Yeah, no.
Because I didn't know if it was in the air. I didn't know if it was in the ground. I didn't know how much trouble we were going to get. And honestly, the people of Turkey have just been amazing. Like, they were not really that. They kept saying forbidden, forbidden.
Well, they weren't very helpful when we were asking them, like, did you see where the drone fell down? And they were just like, no drone. But then I watched the guy. He walked over to one of the police officers and he pointed up to the top of the hill and he was like, Zzz. And so literally I just like walked towards the top of this hill, like amongst all the ruins, and found the drone. Yeah. And it landed perfectly in like just a green patch of grass. Yeah. Which it could have been a lot worse, because like I was also shocked that I was able to find it. Like, I was just going off of one guy pointing up a hill that was like 200 yards away.
Yeah, it was super lucky.
So one thing, we're not bringing the drone to Iraq.
Big drone history in Iraq, so that's a big no-no. And we're going to follow that rule.
We're going to follow that rule. I mean, we aren't even... Like, I sent our guide a photo of your larger camera setup with the mic, and he was like, if you bring that, they're going to think you're a journalist. You have to apply for all these permits. Right. So we're just going to go like as light as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, in terms of the equipment.
So I think it was actually in between, before we got to that area, we met up with an acquaintance, basically. A friend through a friend.
Yes.
Who's a Turkish guy, but he was actually extremely, he was the nicest dude. He took us to a place, very authentic Turkish cuisine, right near the airport.
The Izmir airport.
Correct.
Yeah, because we've been taking a lot of short flights on this trip. So after Cappadocia, we flew to Izmir, which is where we drove to Pamukkale from. But beforehand, this dude took us out for sheep's head.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see the video, like actual sheep's head, and we asked for it totally uncut, and we got to go back into the kitchen and see it totally just undressed, if you will, like in its raw element. And you were like a kid in a candy shop.
Yeah, dude. I mean, as I said, I hadn't filmed like a Whoa, That's Weird video in a while, and I feel like we're getting a lot of stuff that would fall under that category on this trip. And the sheep's head was pretty damn good. I think like the only reason I didn't feel great afterwards was because there's so much fat on a head that you don't realize because you're eating the cheeks, you're eating, I don't know,
brain.
You're eating the brain. Brain's
Fatty.
got fat in it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. The tongue was probably the least fatty part of the whole head. And it was pretty damn good. They bring you over bread. They bring you over all these sauces and yogurt so you can make yourself a sheep's head toast, which was very tasty. But afterwards, I was starting to get the meat sweats a little bit.
Well, you did also, there's obviously, I don't know if this is obvious, but there's 2 eyes in a sheep's head. You completely crushed one entirely. And I think you just popped it like a gumball.
Yeah.
And that
tastes very fatty too.
Yeah, and the second one we saw, it obviously, I don't know if this is obvious, has a white part around a colored part, like a kind of a smaller circle.
It's like a pit.
Yeah.
Sort of like an olive.
Exactly like a pit. It did look like an olive, and we spotted it, and I think for some reason we asked, can we eat this? Is this edible? And he just kind of looked at our guide and was like, no.
Yeah. I mean, I think he just said we don't usually eat it, but yeah, it's not going to kill you.
No, nothing wrong with it, but I just think it's not, usually you toss it out like a pit.
Yes, yeah. But no, like none of us got food poisoning from that. Our PA Tommy did sort of get food poisoning on this trip, but he thinks it's because he was just drinking the tap water for the first 2 days.
In Istanbul.
Yeah, in Istanbul. And like,
I was
like, are you sure you can drink it? And he was like, well, I just like assumed we're in Europe. And I was like, well, we're technically in Asia now, but I don't know. It's a very confusing thing because online I read one thing that said, yeah, you can drink it, it's fine. The other thing said, definitely don't drink it. So I think just play it safe and don't drink the tap.
I want to talk about some of the things that, it was a nice little tour of, or a nice little talk about Turkish culture with, I believe his name is Javid.
Javid was the guy who took us to the restaurant. Yeah.
Right, and he was a very interesting guy because he had been to the States before. I think he was even born in the States.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So he was a very learned guy.
Did he go to Purdue?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was an engineer of some sorts.
Yes.
So smart guy, very interesting dude. And he said, because I kind of asked him, I was like, you've been mentioning the uncivilized side of Turkey. What does that mean? Because everybody we've met in Turkey has been amazing. We haven't seen anything like that. And I forget what prompted me to write this down, but I even asked him, I said, what is that? He said, if you're in a bad area, which I don't think we've really been in any bad areas of Turkey, but he was like, if you're in a bad area of Turkey, just be careful because they might like chuck a kid out in front of your car. And then like, as like a scam, right? Where like you're driving 25 miles an hour or less, and probably 15 in like a rural like neighborhood, and if they spot you, they might like chuck a kid out in front, have you hit them, and then be like, oh, and like the whole town comes out, and then they might be like, you killed him, you hurt him, like give us, so we didn't experience anything like that.
No, I mean, we've had some kids walk up to us and ask for money, but that's, you're going to see that anywhere.
Pretty par for the course anywhere. Yeah. I did just think that was an interesting, very specific story that he decided to tell us. Yeah,
that's a pretty extreme scam if you're using the kid as like the bait.
But we'll fast forward a little bit and get to the things that Donnie wants to talk a lot about, which were really like the impetus for
coming to Turkey. And then once we were in Turkey, Tommy was like, we might as well go to Iraq. So it was kind of, camel wrestling is sort of indirectly the reason why we are going to Iraq. So that's what we want to talk about. If they're doing the prayer, do you want to take a quick pause for the prayer?
Yes, so those of you who don't know, 5 times a day, we are in a Muslim country, so there's, they actually have, I'm just going to mention, they have, it's the mosque, right? They have the speakers on the mosque.
Yeah.
So they
on top of the minarets.
Yeah, so it's literally a loudspeaker, and they blast it out throughout the entire city. So we're going to take a brief pause to let that occur.
Okay, we are back from our prayer break, and now let's talk some camel wrestling. So we drove like 3 hours from Pamukkale to the town of Bodrum, a nice little seaside town, which I guess is incredible in the summer. It's a big like resort destination, but the camel wrestling season is January to March. For some reason, they have like the biggest camel wrestling at the beginning of the season. The one we went to was like, yeah, the one we went to was like a smaller local thing, but it was packed. The stands were packed. I feel like the entire village came out for it.
Yeah, and it was chaos.
It was chaos. So it was chaotic because it was the windiest day of the trip. So like it felt like gale force winds. And at these events, they have these bands that travel around. And if you tip them, they'll play music for you. It's sort of like if you're at a strip club, if you throw out some money, you'll get a lap dance. Well, these guys, if you throw out some money, these guys will come and put on a private show for you. And there's just like all of these bands performing at the same time, playing the same exact music with like the loud horn, like, and so it was so loud, so windy. And then in the midst of all this, you got two camels wrestling.
Yeah, well, even that further, they have a snare drum basically, and they hit it from both sides. They have like a stick and their hand, or like a traditional mallet, if you will. So it's just like back and forth, and that combined with whatever that horn was, and then they had a comment. For those of you that watch Rough and Rowdy, you will know that like Chris, who is the owner of Rough and Rowdy, or the original owner that we teamed up with, he's still at the events, and he will like urge on the fighters. He'll kind of be sitting on like the side of the ring, and he'll be like, go, 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 and he'll urge them, because it's only 1 minute round. This was like the same thing. This guy kept saying Bodrum, which is like the town we were in. I heard that a billion times throughout the day, and I think he was just urging the camels to fight each other or to wrestle. So him yelling, and it was a PA system with massive speakers. I think when we originally got there too, that they'd set us up at a table, and I was like, we can't be near the speaker. This is going to be crazy.
Yeah, could you maybe turn it or something?
And they were like, no, everybody has to hear. And I was like, what do they have to hear? But that, combined with the band, combined with the wind, it created like the Vuvuzela is the best comparison that I can think of. That 2010 South Africa World Cup, where everybody was so annoyed. Like, I was annoyed. I was just like, I cannot even think.
I think though, I think the chaos will be pretty entertaining when the people watch the video. Yeah, and they had also like people walking up and down the stands selling cotton candy. Like it kind of felt like a baseball game in that sense. They had vendors selling camel sausage and camel sausage sandwiches. And they had like the equivalent of their VIP suites on one side, where people would actually, it was like the tailgate section. People would pull up their truck and just be grilling and having like a picnic courtside while you're watching this competition. A little history about camel wrestling. Apparently the Turks have been doing it for like 1,000 years.
Camel wrestling?
Yeah.
Really?
And I guess unlike the Arabs, they've never really used camels for transportation as much. They've always just used horses. But they've always lived around camels. And I think, I don't know, I feel like the main thing they use them for is wrestling or to make camel sausage.
Yeah, well, and to your point, it was a great, you mentioned this, there was a great like tailgate section on the backside, and we went down there to try and basically learn a little bit more about it, and you kept asking this guy, you were like, do they train them? Like, how do they train them?
Yeah.
Where do they train? How do they train them? And you must have asked him 6, 7 different ways.
I think he was blackout drunk.
He was so drunk, and on Raka, which is the traditional, well, is it traditional? But it's very popular alcoholic drink here. Yeah,
no, it's the official liquor of Turkey. And he kept on just like putting a full cup in front of me and literally pouring it down my throat. And he did that like 3 times. And everyone around was like, holy shit, this American is going to be fucking bombed.
It was almost like they didn't think that you knew how bad it was going to be. Meanwhile, you very much knew.
I did know, and I was able to keep it together until the end. We'll talk about that later. But back to camel wrestling. So camels have been wrestling since camels existed. When the female goes into heat, it's kind of like a dominance thing. All of the males will start to wrestle, and they kind of just use their necks to try to pin the other camel's neck to the ground. And so to get these camels in the mood to fight, they actually trot around a smaller female camel, and when they smell the musk of it, or when they just when they smell a female camel in heat, they start to wrestle.
Yeah, they get a little in the mood, and they get a little defensive of territory.
Yes.
And then, but it's crazy because it's kind of like, the best way to describe it is like pit crews, right? There's like the ropes that they kind of use, but honestly, the camels are very much in control. The ropes did not seem to do much. I don't quite know what they were doing, but they would have like 8 people on each side, and they would just try and like run out there at various times when they sensed that things had stalled. It's almost like a UFC fight when they are on the ground and they got to stand them up. It's like, all right, guys, run out there and like reset.
Yes.
And they kind of just throw these ropes around and like spin around in circles, and it's like a tug of war.
Yeah, I mean, like, and once the fight is called, they have to go out there and it's like a tug of war trying to pull the camels apart. I mean, some camels couldn't wait to wrestle. Some camels, they would trot out and they were just like, yeah, we're over it.
Yeah,
like,
and it was
I'm not horny. Those were probably low T camels.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, there could have been 2 minutes in between matches. They could go for 20 minutes. Sometimes the camels, like you said, just didn't want to wrestle, so they kind of were just like, they didn't. We thought it was going to be a little bit more brutal. It luckily wasn't. I didn't think it's hard to force a camel to do something, so they really didn't. And if they didn't want to fight, they'd be like, all right, that's enough. It's next camels.
And apparently, it's a very rich man's sport here, because like a normal farmer isn't going to own a camel. So the people who do own camels, that's just because it's kind of to show off. Like, I have so much extra money, I can just own this camel to compete in the camel wrestling matches. And the owners will actually bet amongst each other on, like, the people in the stands and the crowd and all the locals. They weren't gambling, but the owners were kind of in the owner suites, probably just placing bets with each other. Yeah,
well, and you're right. It's a Muslim country, so like there's no real gambling. I think that would be technically illegal. So they follow the rules. They don't do that. But Turkey's pretty chill, where they definitely do drink alcohol, not to an extreme degree. I think it's just
I don't know
unless you do see it, but I think that guy was rare.
Yeah, no, they have rules. You can't advertise booze, so you'll never see a booze commercial on TV. Or you'll never see a booze billboard. But yeah, you can find it wherever you go.
And they were certainly fine with getting you drunk.
Yeah, so they were fine with that. Apparently, these camel wrestling events, they're used to also raise money for the villages. The one we went to, we didn't have to buy a ticket, but sometimes, say if like they need new roads in town, they'll host a camel wrestling event, charge tickets, and then all of the proceeds go to improving the town.
Yeah, and so when we were done with the backstretch, I used to work in thoroughbred horse racing, and thoroughbreds are very high strung. So when I used to be around thoroughbreds, you have to definitely keep your head on a swivel and not put yourself in certain spots. You don't want to be behind a horse, all that stuff. I kind of noticed pretty early on, these camels aren't overly aggressive to my liking. So I said to you, let's go in. I was like, I motioned that the gate was right there. There isn't really security. There's people running the event, but there's no real security. So I was like, let's just walk in there. Yes. And not only did we walk in there, we had front row seats.
Yeah, we got to do some,
yards away from
I was like, because, it wasn't even sideline reporting. It was like I was the ref. Like, I was just there amongst all the camels. And mind you, this was immediately after that guy forced me to drink 3 large cups of booze. So the next thing you know, I'm just hammered in the middle of a camel wrestling match. And we're going around. We're getting like full access. And
it was a blast.
It was a blast. At that point, I was just hammered. Like, what is going on? But and we were there for a good like 20 minutes before
anyone noticed.
Yeah, and finally someone noticed. He was like, dude, what are you guys doing here?
Yeah, I think I saw him go.
Yeah. Like, and he wasn't mad. He was just so confused. He was like, you guys shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Because I was helping pull the camels apart and shit.
You were, we're going to put this out with the video, so definitely watch the video. It's a classic Donnie Does video where he gets in the mix and starts doing Donnie stuff. So he was grabbing the rope, trying to and actually, I think they weren't concerned about our safety. They were more like, because they were like influencing. That's the weird part, is like you kind of described it in a very funny way. You were like, this is like a thummy war.
A thumb war, yeah. If the two camel necks are two
the thumbs, and then they kind of hook, and then it's like a small battle of aggression. So, like we said, the humans kind of ran out. The teams of people in corners would kind of run out and like oddly influence it because they guess they had to, but then they would kind of like snap at each other and be like, "No, you're influencing it too much." So I think once you put your hands on the rope, they were like, "Oh, now this guy's influencing it. We can't have that."
Yeah.
But they didn't really.
No, I would wait until the fight was called.
Yeah, I didn't think you were
to
actually
get in there.
doing anything. But they kind of didn't actually really kick us out. They urged us to leave, but they were really nice about it, I thought.
Very nice, yeah. No, I mean, but by the time that we left, that booze had fully caught up to me. And we're driving. We probably make it 5 minutes outside of the festival, and I just have to tell Tom to pull over. And I just yacked it all out. Felt a million times better, but I had to do that, or else, because I had like an absurd amount of booze.
I think it was the right decision to puke and rally.
Yeah,
sure.
No, I was back to square one. I mean, I was still pretty drunk, but if I hadn't have puked, it would have gotten ugly. So that was Camel Wrestling. It's going to be an incredible video. We'll try to tell you more about the history of the sport and like VOs. And you know, I could talk for another hour about our Turkey trip. We still have to cover bull wrestling. We still have to cover bull fighting and a Turkish basketball game we went to last night. But I don't want to rush it. And right now we got to head to the airport for Baghdad pretty soon. So we're going to wrap this up. We'll touch on everything else in a later episode. And yeah, right now I think I'm just going to call my parents and talk to them one last time. Yeah, I think I mentioned it. I don't know if my dad was on the phone, but yeah, let's do that.
Hey, how are you?
How are you? Is Mom there too?
Yep.
Now we are in Istanbul, and we're heading to Baghdad tonight.
Baghdad. So where is Baghdad? Is that in Turkey?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's not in Turkey, Dad. Come on.
Baghdad is in Iraq.
Yes.
Iraq?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I was wishful thinking.
Yeah, so I just wanted to talk to you before leaving. We are going to be with a guide the whole time. And I talked to a YouTuber who has been with that guide. He said he felt safe. Yeah, it seems like there's more and more tourists going there. They all have positive things to say about it. So I think we'll be good. I won't be doing anything crazy.
And what are you going to do in Baghdad?
Check out the markets, try some Baghdadi food. And then we're there for a day, and then we're going to the marshes of Mesopotamia, where we're gonna like stay in a reed hut with Marsh Arabs. But don't worry, Marsh Arabs are good people.
What country?
It's the same country.
Iraq.
Yeah. And then we'll be back in Baghdad for one more day.
Okay.
Is Baghdad?